Hi everyone, this is Crystal and I am back with week 16 in my 2020 Project Life album. You can see I already have my photos printed out and I've placed them where I'm pretty sure they're going to go on the spread. I had quite a few photos this week, so it took me a while to kind of edit them down and figure out exactly which ones I wanted to use for this spread. For supplies, I have just gone into my stash and pulled out this huge, actually, stack of journal cards from various manufacturers from the last, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years. And just pulled out ones that I thought kind of worked with this whole idea of being at home, being in quarantine. This was right in the middle of our quarantine here in Indiana. So I just pulled out things that I thought would work well with that. I also pulled out a bunch that I plan to use for my second quarantine insert. So those are in here as well. I then went through the rest of my supplies and just pulled out a few random things. I have some stickers and puffy stickers and chipboard and some alphas as well. All just that went with the colors in the cards that I pulled out. I did try to stick to a particular color scheme when I was looking through the cards. And then I also grabbed, I have these 2 little iris bins full of labels. One of these, I believe, is mostly Citrus Twist. This one, I think it also has some Feature Craft and some Illustrated Faith in there. And then I think this one is mostly Studio Calico and Ellie Studio. Yeah, it's just easier to have them in 2 so that it's not so much to flip through each time. But I grabbed them both because I have no idea what colors are in what. So I'm going to definitely be pulling in some of these as well. That is basically my plan as it stands right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and start playing. So as usual, I'm going to start by just flipping through the cards that I've pulled out here. And like I said, there are a lot. I went through basically my entire stash of Project Life cards, or at least the most current stash. I have some older ones that I don't really use anymore, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I went through my more current stash, which I have recently reorganized so that it's much easier for me to find things. If you're curious about how I organize it, let me know in the comments and I'll definitely share that. It is still a work in progress, so it might be a little while before I do, but I'd be happy to show you how I organize them. But anyway, I went through everything that I had, and like I said, I just pulled out things that I thought would work with this idea of being at home. And then my my second quarantine insert in my Project Life album is going to be about the food that we ate. So I also pulled anything that kind of went along with that theme. And as I started to pull things, there was a clear kind of color scheme. So because I had so many to choose from, I decided to stick with this kind of pink and teal, and there's a little bit of kind of a violet as well as some yellow. So that's, and gray. That was kind of the color scheme that I chose for, I guess it's like a kit. I guess it's basically a stash kit that I created here. So, so yeah, I chose some of the cards. You can see there was one that said, "Let's stay home." I'm going to use that on the photo of my drink that Friday night. There's one that says "Party." I'm going to use that for the Zoom party we had for Jesse's birthday. And, there is one that says "You Me Us." That's Brandy Kincaid for Feature Craft card. And then that title card is a super old one from Studio Calico, from one of their super early kits. Okay, so then I had that bin of labels. I started to go through it. I saved you having to watch me sort through that whole thing, but I just went through and pulled out some that are kind of in this color scheme. So the things I've chosen here are teal and pink and gray with just that tiny little bit of green in the You Me Us card because I thought it really tied in with all the green in my photos. I don't end up adding any additional green in my embellishing. I'm just going to stick with the teal and pink and gray for all of my embellishments. So I chose a few labels. I wanted to make sure I had space to add some journaling. Since I don't have a card specifically for journaling on this spread, I'm going to need to add it in labels. So I made sure I had enough labels to get all of the stories told, and then I can just start embellishing. So this is kind of the fun part. This is the part that's strictly play. It's where I just look through all of the embellishments that I've pulled out and try and find things that work with my colors, with the stories I have to tell, and just kind of start putting things down and see what works. So I chose a couple chipboard pieces. There's one that has an ampersand on it and one that's just dots. And then I grabbed these chipboard hearts, which are super old from Studio Calico, and I decided to use those instead. So I'm going to use those in a grouping of 3 because that is always pleasing to the eye. And nothing is glued down yet, so I am just kind of playing and figuring out how I want this page to work. While I'm kind of thinking about how things are going to go, I decided to go ahead and add my title to my title card. So I grabbed these Pinkfresh Studio Puffy Alphas, and I'm just going to add week 16 to the bottom of the pattern part of this 4x6 card. And I had thought about kind of layering up another label on top of the label that's printed on the card, but I don't end up doing that. You'll see here in a little bit I decide against that. But right now I'm just kind of giving myself options. So still just playing, still just looking through all of the things that I pulled out. And you may have noticed I did limit the number of supplies that I chose to work with these cards. I like to keep the kits that I create small enough to not feel overwhelming. I find that I'm able to get more done more quickly if I don't have too many supplies to choose from. And that's something I talk about in my class on Big Picture Classes that released a couple months ago, all about creating kits from your stash and how to use those kits. So if you're curious about that, I always link that in the description box below. You can go check that out and get some more information about how to make stash kits that are actually usable. Okay, so I'm working on this card that had party printed on it, and then I used the alphas, these tiny little puffy alphas. They're actually from an old hip kit to add the word Zoom, so it says Zoom Party. And then I'm just going to add a label on top of my photo and another one of those chipboard hearts on top of that. And I do just use my tape runner to glue that down, and then I'm going to add a staple in the center just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't end up in the bottom of the pocket. And then I will add some journaling, but I end up doing my journaling off camera for this spread. It was just taking a bit too long to get it all done, and didn't think you needed to sit and watch me write all of that journaling out. So I added another label to this top photo. This is a photo of Jessie out in the hammock, all wrapped up in a sleeping bag. So this was, like I said, the middle of April, and it was still pretty chilly out. It was not quite warm enough for really spending the day outside yet. And but he was impatient and couldn't wait, so he decided to go grab his sleeping bag and get all bundled up and sit out in the hammock. And he can tolerate the cold much better than I can, so he was just fine out there like that. I, however, stayed indoors until a few days later when it warmed up a bit. So I added just the word burr into the label using those same tiny puffy alphas from HipKit. And I will add my journaling below that. And now I am jumping around a little bit, working on this bottom square photo on the card that says Let's Stay Home. That's Citrus Twist Kits card. And the only thing I'm going to do here is add a little strip of, it's actually a sticker from that sticker sheet from HipKit, but I kind of tore both ends and it looks like a washi strip. So I just wanted it to kind of look like it was holding the photo in place. I will come back and do some stamping on that card as well here in a little bit. For this one, this is a photo of Jessie on his birthday, so I'm just going to add 44, which is his age, to the little label there, and then I will add another embellishment to that here in a little bit, but I haven't quite decided yet what I want to use at this point, so I will come back to that. Just to repeat that same look, this is a photo of me in the hammock. I put it on the spread exact opposite of the photo of Jessie in the hammock, which they were taken on different days during this week. But I really liked the way that those two kind of mirrored each other. And I added the same kind of label in opposite corners of the photo, just again to kind of draw attention to the fact that those are kind of mirrored photos on the spread. So here is where I decided to do some stamping. I went through my stash and pulled out 2 stamp sets from Citrus Twist. and I don't remember off the top of my head which kits they're from, but if you're curious, just let me know and I will look through my stash and figure it out and see if they are still available. So I stamped a little sentiment on one of these little arrow stickers from this Hip Kit Club sticker sheet, and I'm adding it on top of the chipboard heart on that photo of our dogs. I just really liked the way that that looked, so I decided to repeat that and do it on the photo of Jesse's birthday Bloody Mary. Instead of stamping for this one, though, I chose one that had a sentiment already printed on it, and it was like a little tag, but I decided to create the same kind of little arrow banner, so I just used my scissors and trimmed that down, and then I added a staple to both of those, again, just to make sure that they stay in place. And then I did find a couple stickers on the bottom of the sheet, one that I think says, "Look at your smile," or something like that. I'm going to add that here below the 44. And I think there's one more, I'm not sure if I add that now. Yeah, I think I do. Onto the photo of the fire pit. So Jesse's birthday wish was that we spend as much of the day as possible outside. We had a fire, we hung out, all of the animals were out with us. It was a really nice day, just hanging out at home. So I added that little sticker sentiment there to that photo and added the chipboard piece on top of it. And I had thought about using one of these little puffy stickers that says here, kind of where the burr is on the opposite photo, but it just didn't look quite right. So instead I've added this rainbow puffy sticker, which it has all of the same colors that I've used throughout the spread, plus just a little bit of yellow, which it doesn't bother me just to bring in that tiny little bit, but I really liked the way that that looked. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a few more stamps to the spread. So I felt like some of these photos needed just a little something extra, but there wasn't really a lot of room for additional embellishments. Some embellishments take up quite a lot of space, especially like puffy stickers and chipboard pieces. So to get a few more sayings and other extra embellishments on the page without taking up the entire photo, I decided to add some stamps. So I stamped "Slay Girl Slay" on the photo of me mudding drywall in our bedroom. And then I'm also going to add this stamp that says "Home Sweet Home," I think, just above the title on my title card. I will also add a few more stamps. There is one that says "Chilling." I'm going to add that below the rainbow on that photo of myself. And I think I add one more. I add two more. There's one that says something like "We Keep It Real." I'm going to add that below the "You Me Us," just to add a little bit of something extra to that card. And I am using gray ink, so that helps spread the gray around this spread as well. And then I do add one more that says "Staying In." It's a little block stamp. I'm going to add that to the photo of my Friday night cider right there. And this time I stamped directly on my photo. I print my photos at home, and I find that they take ink very well. So I don't have any trouble printing on photos, but if you do, it's likely comes down to the type of ink you're using and the type of paper you're using. So just play around and see what you can get to work. If you ever have a bad print or a little piece you've trimmed off of a photo, it's a great way to use that to practice stamping in different inks and to find out which of your inks work on the type of photo paper that you use. Just a little tip. Okay, so I did stamp the dates for this week on my title card, and I wanted to add a puffy heart between them, but of the ones that I had already chosen, this sheet I had already chosen, none of them fit. And if they fit, they weren't the right color. So I just went back into my stash and found another sheet of puffy stickers that had some hearts on it, and they had some smaller ones that would fit in between those two dates, and there was one in the perfect color blue. And that's it. That is the spread all done. So here are some close-up photos. You can see all of the journaling that I added and see all of the embellishments up close. anything that is still available, I will be sure to link in the description box below. If you have any questions about anything I've done or anything I've used here in this spread, be sure to leave those in the comments, and I will be sure to get back to you ASAP. If you enjoyed this video, I do appreciate a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you back here very soon.